In today's Leeds news, why Bielsa has stayed away, international roundup, Gudmundsson error finally admitted, under 18 goes on loan, and does Farke stay or go this summer? Hiya folks, welcome to the Leeds View for Friday the 27th of March. I hope you're all doing well. To myself and all the Irish fans and Welsh fans out there, I hope you're doing okay after what was a heartbreaking night last night. And a massive thanks to everyone who joined us over on bigup.com for the watch along of what was a very emotional end to a game of football. We're going to do a watch along tonight as well over on bigup.com for the England game as well, as Marcelo Bielsa returns to the UK. And we've got some information to talk about Bielsa, as we probably all imagined that we would. We're also going to have a bit of a video that goes out early next week that will have as many of the Leeds United content creators as I can wrangle together to give their predictions on the run-in to the remainder of this season for the four sides that are tipped to be in the fight for that final relegation spot. You can give me your thoughts on that over the course of the weekend as well. We'll start off today, though, with Marcelo Bielsa and his return to England. Marcelo Bielsa will walk his Uruguay side out at Wembley tonight. And as expected, over the course of last week in his press conferences leading into this game, he's been asked a lot of questions about English football and about Leeds United as well. And I personally am delighted that he's back in England to start with, and also a chance to hear what he has to say about Leeds United and the reasons why he hasn't been around the place since he moved on. Bielsa described his time at Leeds United as one of the most beautiful footballing memories that football has given him. And he was asked about the Premier League, Leeds' status in the Premier League, and he had to follow on to say, well, of course, I want Leeds to stay in the Premier League, which is where they belong. I haven't returned to Leeds, mainly because the feeling of nostalgia is something that at time one resists confronting. Everything to do with my time at that club I experienced with nostalgia, and I see it as one of the most beautiful memories that football has ever given me. As expected, Marcelo had lots of thoughts on the current state of football, the commercial structures around it, and his love of English football fans and the passion that they bring to the games. But his reasons for staying away from Leeds United, I suppose, are understandable. They're all emotional based, and he was hit pretty hard when he was dismissed by Leeds United. I think everyone's felt it. We've all felt it for years afterwards. But he was talking about this and went on to wish Leeds United nothing but success in the future and said this: I wish that Leeds will be able to stay up because that is where they should be. The club is an institution with resources and footballers good enough to keep them up. It would have been interesting to see what Marcelo Bielsa would have done under the current ownership. We know the 49ers tried to get him back briefly when they took over the club initially and were unsuccessful at that point. But it would be interesting to see him back at Elland Road at some point. Obviously, the Leeds will have a memorial to him and Howard Wilkinson going up on the East Stand in the next couple of months, which people are putting stones for, which is nice to see. But it'd be nice to have him there to open that as well, along with Howard Wilkinson. Wouldn't it be great to get both of them in the same place at the exact same time? But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it tonight. You can join us over on bigup.com for that watch along if you want to. Let's move on. We'll get into the international roundup, and Gabby Gudmundsson is our starting point. We had a really good night for Gabby. He started and played 77 minutes for Sweden in their 3-1 win against the Ukraine. That match was played in a neutral venue in Valencia. From a Wales perspective, it was an equally heartbreaking night for the Welsh lads as it was for the Irish lads. And they went out on penalties as well. Dan James played 84 minutes and was in scintillating form for the Welsh side. He scored an absolute screamer in that game as well. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way to try and find it. Carl Darlow also in fantastic form last night. Played the entire match and saved the penalty as well as making a world-class save during that game as well. Ethan Ampadu played the entire game along with Joe Rodon as well. So fingers crossed they'll all be okay on the back of that. Suriname, Joe Pirio made his international debut late last night for Suriname in his first ever game. He played 90 minutes for them, and they were leading that game 1-0 up until the 72nd minute, and then 2 goals in 7 minutes were enough to give Bolivia the win and put the Surinamese side out. So Joel will return to Leeds, as will Ampadu, Darlow, Dan James, and Joe Rodon, hopefully all in good form. Bit heartbroken right now, but they all did what they had to do last night. It's a shame they had to go out, but we'll move on. The Premier League's key match incidents panel have found that Gabriel Gudmundsson's second yellow card and dismissal against Crystal Palace should not have happened. Here we go. Again, it's the second time in a fortnight that the key match incidents panel have found the Leeds United are victims of refereeing or VAR errors, which doesn't do anything to make us all feel better about it, but it does vindicate at least our sentiments at the time. The panel have reported that there was minimal contact in the challenge and that it was careless rather than reckless and shouldn't have resulted in a second yellow card. And as we know, VAR can't get involved in second yellow card incidents, at least not for now. They want to from next season. It might change our opinions on whether they should or shouldn't moving forward. But it's infuriating for a couple of parts. Not just the fact that Leeds had to change their approach to the Crystal Palace game, not just for the fact that we were missing Gudmundsson for the game against Brentford, but that the fact that there were so many ex-referees and officials who jumped to the defence of Thomas Bramall. Mark Clattenburg, when he was commenting on this, backed up Thomas Bramall's decision to send Gabriel Gudmundsson on. He said it was justified and went on to say that there was excessive force and the tackle was reckless, which in its own terminology would be deemed as a straight red card. If both of those were put together for any tackle, it should be a straight red, which it definitely wasn't. And now the KMI panel have dismissed both of those as being completely false and not the case at all. Minimal contact, not reckless, possibly a bit careless, but shouldn't have been a yellow card offence. And Thomas Bramall's reaction on the night said everything we needed to know. He looked in absolute shock, and he was rewarded, well, demoted, rewarded, whatever way you want to look at it, as being the fourth official for the Carabao Cup final. So Leeds, over the last couple of months, could say they've been robbed of probably 4 points, roughly in and around that, which, again, would have gone a long way to helping our goals for this season. Would have stuck us on 37 points, made us feel a lot more relaxed with the games coming up. And VAR and referees are not helping the situation. Apologies do nothing to help Leeds United stay in the Premier League. And there are no real consequences for any of these officials for the mistakes that they have been making. And there have been more mistakes made this year than any other year in the Premier League, and it has been seen. And myself and Paul Brooker spoke about this over on his channel about the state of the officiating and VAR. And also, has the Premier League created all of this itself just by its own actions? So if you want to have a fireside chat around the point about me and Paul's thoughts on that, I'll link it at the end of the video. We had some strong opinions on that one, but you can check that one out. For now, we'll move on. Leeds United under-18 attacker Kenneth Mensah has joined Scarborough Athletic FC on loan for the remainder of this season. Mensah's had a pretty strong breakthrough season. He's only 17 years of age. He's played for under-18s this season and made his under-21 debut as well. And he has been capped at under-16 level for Italy. Scarborough manager John O'Greening had the following to say about signing Mensah. We're pleased to have him on board to help us with the final part of the season, and we are looking forward to seeing what he can do. We hope that he enjoys his time with us. Scarborough play in the National League North at this point. They're in the playoff hunt right now, and hoping that Mensah can join up and help them get a push across the line. It's a good season, Kenneth Mensah. He's an exciting young player. We'll keep an eye on him. We'll add him to the loan watch for the remainder of this year and see how he gets on. Let's move on and talk about Daniel Farke, and a really interesting debate that's come up with some unique parameters that have been asked to be discussed. This is all very much hypothetical situations right now, but the inevitable conversations around what Leeds United do next season when it comes to the man in the dugout have inevitably already started to rumble. But the context of this is interesting, if nothing else. If Leeds were to go down this season, then the season will be seen as a failure, and you would imagine then the manager would lose his job. However, if Leeds wanted to bounce straight back into the Premier League for the Championship, is there a better manager around or available than Daniel Farke to be the person to get you back into the Premier League? And that's the question that's being asked right now. If Leeds do, though, stay in the Premier League, do Leeds reward Daniel Farke for the job being done as was asked of him, or do they decide to go in a different direction? And if you were to park all emotion and all sentiment on this, it is an interesting question. During our podcast last week, Benjamin Bloom asked me this exact question. If you do get relegated, is there a better manager to get you promoted than Daniel Farke? And it did stop me in my tracks for a minute ago. Well, actually, when you put it like that, and again, if you remove all the emotion and sentiment from it, his track record would say he's probably the best guy. But for the moment, this is just a debate and just a conversation. And most people would have said at the beginning of this season, if Leeds United were to finish the year with Daniel Farke in charge, then the chances are Leeds have had a successful season. And that success is judged on Leeds staying in the Premier League. Again, most of us would have taken 17th at the start of the season. But BBC's Adam Pope, who has contributed to this channel continuously over the past 3 years, was asked this exact question on a BBC Sport Q&A, and he had the following to say. In terms of moving Leeds United football, there has been evidence this season that Farke is evolving as a manager. He has proved that he can set up a team to compete with better sides in the Premier League, And also, for example, in Jaden Bogle, Ilya Gruev, Joe Rodon, and Ethan Ampadu, his coaching has definitely improved a lot of players, keeping United in the top flight by creating a core of players within that PSR constraints suggests that he can move this team forward. If Leeds were to go down, Popey suggests that the inevitable happens. The manager loses his job because it wasn't a successful season. But he does also see the argument of hanging on to Daniel Farke next season because of the circumstances we're already talking about. And he said this: it's unlikely he stays in the event of relegation. However, he retains the support of his employers at present. So there's an argument that if the board remains committed to the style of football it wanted to play when they won promotion last time, which was aggressive with wingers designed to dominate games, it may feel that Farke is best suited to provide that again. And he was the preferred candidate from the original selection when he arrived in July 2023. Again, without the emotion and the parameters that we are discussing here, it is an interesting debate, if nothing else. Farke's contract runs until the end of next season. Leeds have said they're not going to be negotiating any extensions until the end of this year, and the job is finally done and dusted. But there's also the ownership's reaction to fan sentiment that needs to be taken into consideration here. We saw this at the end of last season when the story came out from Mike Keegan in the Daily Mail that Leeds were looking at potentially sacking Daniel Farke despite the fact that he'd won promotion at that point. Given the reaction from the fan base, they rolled back on that, denied the article, and pushed forward. We know the Daily Mail had been used at that point as the mouthpiece for the 49ers to get information out. So it was an interesting one, but they do react to the fans, so that could be a deciding factor in this as well. But yeah, it is an interesting debate, and I know everyone has got their own opinions. There are people who are in the comment section who love Daniel Farke. Absolutely understandable. There are those who don't want him at the club anymore, and that, again, depending on how you want to look at it, is understandable. And there's those in the middle, in the grey area. But I would like to know if you can park emotion and sentiment and look at it during those parameters, is there a better man to get you promoted if you were to go down? And if you stay up, do you not just reward him for doing the job he was paid to do? I would love to know everyone's thoughts, and I'll try and keep it respectful if you can. It's just a hypothetical question at this stage and nothing more than that. But I would love to know your thoughts on that. That'll be it for me today, folks. Keep an eye on the channel over the weekend. We'll have some bits and pieces out. Again, we're going to try and get as many content creators together in one space as we can to do some recordings on the run-in for the remaining 7 games for the 4 sides competing for that final spot. You can check that out if you want to. And also check out the chat myself and Paul Brooker had over on his channel around the state of football. I was also spoke to Conor McGilligan on his channel about the run-in and the thoughts of the approach that Leeds need to take to stay in the Premier League. You can check that out. I'll link both of them at the end of today's video. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.